Hello.
Hi.
I was having a problem getting on tonight. You couldn't click on the link. You had to type it in,
Oh,
or at least I couldn't.
I always just type in the ID number, so I'm not sure. I don't usually use the links.
Oh, okay. Well, and I must have, my eyes are getting bad. The numbers are small, so I had to, control C and V it to get it in there to work.
Oh, okay.
And I have not heard from anybody if they're not going to be here tonight, so I would expect everybody would be at the meeting.
Okay.
Hello again, Jim.
Long time no see.
Yeah, no kidding. Keep changing my outfit. I feel like a superhero right now.
I could make a comment, but Allison is here, so I'm just going to behave.
And that's why I felt it was safe enough for me to say it.
Glad I could be of assistance.
You're a little too young to have to change your clothes that frequently.
Well, we had, it was jeans and polo day at the bank because we, raised a certain amount of money for this foundation, whatever. So I was going to take a picture with the team. They're like, you have to wear your jeans and polo. But then we had the ribbon cutting, so I had to put my suit and tie on. And then when I got home, like, I am done with the suit and tie stuff. I got to get out of this.
You don't have to wear a suit and tie every day at work, or do you?
No, we went business casual, but with COVID, everything's kind of laxed right now.
Yep.
How are you, Greg?
Hello,
Good, Pete.
Greg.
How was the ribbon cutting?
It was great. I wish you were there, but I totally get it.
Yeah, no, it's a bad day in the office. The auditors are in and we're trying to close out Streetscape Phase 2 for the auditors and we just couldn't do it. So I got stuck in the office till late.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I know you would have been there if you could. Ginny gave me a partial heart attack as she called me probably 20 minutes before saying, is Steve supposed to be there? I'm like, oh boy. But it worked out.
Good. So Angelo, I understand the closing took place yesterday for the right-of-way acquisition.
I believe so. My attorney stopped by yesterday afternoon for me to sign the document. So if it happened yesterday, that was pretty fast.
Yeah, so I think one more subordination has to be signed and then we'll go
Okay.
ahead and finish the transaction.
Okay, good.
What time do you have, Pete?
That's 7 o'clock.
All right, we'll give it like one more minute and then we'll start.
Allison, do you have my presentation?
Yep, I have it all set.
Thank you.
Allison, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
No.
What haven't I pressed on my computer then? Start video, share screen.
At the bottom left, Dave, you might see something that says start video next to the mute button in the left-hand corner of the Zoom. There you go.
Okay. Thanks.
How you doing, Angelo?
How's everybody doing?
Good. Well, I saw you that day, but you didn't go to the dinner. I was a little disappointed.
I didn't want to take a chance on getting sick. How was it?
It was delicious. They have amazing food.
Yeah, I know I was going to miss out, but I didn't want to take a chance.
Well, I told Ray I was going to give you a hard time, so.
How'd you play?
You know how it goes, sometimes,
That's tough if you didn't want
it's
it.
not going too well, but a couple of shots keep you coming back the next time.
There you go. That's what it's all about.
I think we're going to have a full house. So I think it's a little bit after 7. I think we could start. I think, is that Mel looking like he's getting on?
Yep.
Okay.
It looks like Alan getting on as well.
We- All right, well, it's 7:02. I think we can start. I think Mel will get on, or maybe he might be on already and we don't know. Well, let's call the meeting to order and let's go over our minutes from last meeting. Do we have any questions? Can I get a motion on the minutes from the August 18th meeting, please?
Motion to accept the minutes.
And second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay. We're flying through the agenda tonight. Greg, I wanted to ask you a question about public comment. Ever since there was the problem with, I'll call it the hacking of the Board of Ed meeting, the Board of Selectmen meeting, whatever. Is the Zoom meeting controlled now for town meetings where it can't happen?
I'll let Allison comment on that. You can control it the same way the Board of Ed does now, but it's really up to the settings that you choose to have them set. Now, I think Allison can comment on that better than I.
Well, as the host of the meeting, I have the participants list up, and anyone looking to join the meeting has to be admitted from the waiting room so I can see their name pop up. There are times where it's just a phone number or something, and then I'll have to admit them to see who it is that's trying to get into the meeting. But I can remove a participant from the meeting if I need to. And after that incident, I've just been kind of put on alert to be ready to remove any unruly participants as needed. But not that I could completely prevent something like that from happening.
Mr. Chairman, just to the note is that unless we have a password to get in or allowed to go into or forced to go into a waiting room, then then it can happen. But if we are, if we're coming right in, with no password, then yes, it could happen. But, I don't think we have the same kind of issues that the Board of Ed did.
Yeah, I think you gotta be, well, it's probably a bad phrase to say pretty hard up if you want to crash the EDC meeting. I don't think you're going to get the same audience as the Board of Finance or a Board of Ed meeting. But, well,
Rich, can I ask if you would just tilt your camera down just a tiny bit? We have a great shot of your forehead.
well, I'm trying to grow some hair up there, so.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
The light,
Yeah.
the light's not going to help. The light. I've had the computer on my head all day long, and it's not doing the thing.
It didn't do it for you.
You guys are giving me no hope.
All right, we're going to go to new business, and Greg, do you have anything on the new business front?
Everything I have, I put together in a presentation that covers all of my agenda items this evening that were emailed to you. And if you'd like, we can go through that all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do, because that's pretty
If
much, I think.
If Allison can put that up on the screen, I'll just go through it with you guys real quick. Thank you, Allison.
Greg, thank you for sending it through before, though.
Yeah.
It was good to review.
So Allison, we see the agenda.
We know you're looking for it, Allison.
Yeah, I have it here. I'm actually working off of two screens, so I'm trying to get the correct document up for you.
Greg, maybe I could just ask you in the interim, what is the status of the assisted living facility on Federal Road? Do you know?
Yes, the contractors told us they've pulled the workforce off to other projects at the request of the financer or developer. And you can speculate as to why. What they're saying officially is that they have higher priority, they only have so big of a workforce, they have higher priority projects. Now, if that's because of COVID or cash flow or some other business reason that they didn't share with us, who knows? They said they will start up in a few months, but as you can tell, the entire job came to a screeching halt 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling, just, I think, to see something like that happen.
Well, going into assisted living and elderly care, that's been a COVID concern. And maybe they said, you know what, let's just slow this down for a little bit, but I'm only guessing.
Okay.
Okay. Allison has up my presentation. Would you guys like me to go through this or should I just take questions from you?
I would love if you can go through it. I mean, I've read through it, but any talking points as you go. I mean,
Okay.
everybody else read through it, but we can go quickly.
Okay, so I'll just go through this quickly and raise your hand or stop me however. So budget-wise, no problem. We have no unusual or unplanned expenditures. In fact, we're not really spending any money other than really Allison's time to manage these meetings for us. Website and social media. I said last month that we had no Facebook postings and our website was stale. I've now made 2 postings on our Facebook page. We don't get many likes or comments. So if you guys are on Facebook, you get a chance, comment, like, and share. On the website, I put up the Branson Ultrasonics announcement on the status of their project. Now, what I did on that about 2 weeks ago is I called the corporate headquarters in St. Louis for Branson. The parent company is Emerson. And I spoke to their head corporate guy for communications. I introduced myself. I said that we would like to co-host or be involved in your ribbon cutting. And I would like to make a statement about, you coming to Brookfield. And he did that. And all that was part of what I put on the website. So if you haven't seen that, please take a look. And that we will be involved in the ribbon cutting. It'll be sometime in the fall. And I think it's going to be a rather big deal. Emerson's a large company. So I think they're going to make something special of that. So we'll be involved.
That was a great job, Doug. I'm just going to pause there. That was amazing that you reached out. And I mean, we shouldn't make light of Branson coming to Brookfield. So the fact that you reached out to them is tremendous. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
You're here. Sounds good.
Yeah. And next, every month on the first Friday of the month, Steve Dunn puts out something called the Spotlight. And if you guys aren't signed up to receive those newsletters, you probably should, because every month I put something there that's got an economic development theme to it. So this month it was the Branson, announcement or update. So that's all I've done on website and social media. And if there's no questions, I'll move on. Okay, I just categorized something called economic development. I'll just give you a bunch of highlights on a bunch of things. And there's more since I put this out 2 days ago. I'll add a couple things at the end of this list. The first is that we're probably not going to meet the threshold for FEMA for the August 4th storm to receive any reimbursement. Although that decision's not been made, just like with the macro burst 2 years ago, you have to reach a certain limit at a county level, not a town level, a county level, to be reimbursed by FEMA. We made it 2 years ago. The rumor on the street is the county is not going to reach it this year or this time. So the $188,000 claim that I submitted and all the work we put into it is probably going to be for naught. But we'll see. That the final word has not come back yet.
Greg, what's the reason why the county isn't going to do it or achieve it?
No, all the towns were given a deadline to submit what's called their PDA, preliminary damage assessment. And we had until midnight, 3 p.m. on like August 22nd to submit it, or August 20th. And I made it by 1 minute. And then when they shut that window down, they shut it down hard. So every other town had that same deadline, and then they sum up all the numbers. And if they don't meet a certain threshold for certain categories of damage, basically FEMA doesn't open up a claim for you. We've not heard from FEMA. They are so backed up. We just closed the Macroburst claim 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And that was 2 years ago that event took place. So it's just a very slow process. The amount of paperwork you'll go blind going through paperwork with FEMA. And on top of that, we have the COVID claim that's my second bullet. We're probably not going to get any reimbursed from COVID as a town. But we're on conference calls now every Monday morning with FEMA, or just our town, with a FEMA person giving us updates on our claim and what we have to do. And the important thing about the COVID claim is that we need FEMA's formal opinion before we can apply for what's called state relief funding. That's the federal money that's flowing down through the states. And what that program says is you cannot get any federal money until FEMA denies you, or whatever you're ineligible from FEMA, you are then can submit a claim against the federal and state pockets of money. So those two tracks are kind of going on at the same time. And it just takes time, and you got to work through it and be very patient because it's very burdensome.
Hey, Greg.
Quick, just to put it in, context. How
What's
big
that?
was the PDA for the,
Rich, can't hear you, Rich. Can you turn up?
oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Just to put it in context, can you tell us how much the PDA was and then the COVID-19 submissions?
Okay, the PDA for the August 20th claim was $188,000. The COVID-19 claim, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was in the neighborhood of $300,000.
Whoa.
And that does not include many things they said don't even try to qualify for, like laptops for the kids in schools. Things like that. They said don't even try. That's a whole separate approval process and a different path to seek. So when FEMA says, when President Trump, for example, declares a national emergency or declares a disaster area, that doesn't mean you're FEMA qualified. That just means you start a process. And then you have to meet all kinds they create guidelines and rules and policy, and you have to read through all these documents, some of which are boilerplate, some of which are tailored to the event, to determine what to apply for and what to submit, and following all these rules. So that's kind of the process.
Okay.
I never thought I'd be doing 3 FEMA claims, working 2 years and 4 months within each other. Just amazing.
Greg, I think the point is that as long as we've done our due diligence, we've applied, for what we believe we are entitled to within the time frame that we should have done it, then that's all we can do. So, congratulations and feel good that you've done it. If we can't, because there are other considerations beyond your control or the town's control, then that's it. I mean, there's nothing to be said, but if we've done all we can, then, job well done.
Yeah. So this was an important step because we need that denial letter to get state and federal money that's non-FEMA, and that's kind of just like a necessary step to get us to the next step, if you will. So that's an update on FEMA and our last 2 emergency declarations.
Greg, one thing on that, please. If we get denied by FEMA, what's the likeliness of us getting approved with the state or federal money? How does that work? What's the percentage chance?
There are so many different programs out there, probably a half a dozen different programs, and the chances are really good that we're going to get some reimbursement. If I had a guess, maybe 2/3 of that $300,000 would be my guess. And if you follow the Board of Finance at all in their deliberations, they know all these numbers. Marcia does a great job of sharing it with them and updating them every month at the Board of Finance meetings. And they're very well of the risk to the town's fund balance and managing all of that. But it's a moving target. A lot of these rules are ambiguous. Some programs overlap each other, some have gaps. And as you can imagine, when this COVID hit, this whole thing got thrown together so quickly from all these executive orders and all these programs that it's sometimes as clear as mud on how it works. And that's just the frustration we're going through. This is going to take some time. It's far from over.
I can imagine.
So in that regard, the next bullet point, Governor Lamont extended one of his executive orders, Executive Order 9A, to November 9th. So this whole thing about outdoor dining and relaxing zoning restrictions and other things that will allow restaurants to stay open now got extended to November 9th. And who knows if it gets extended beyond that. So every day in the office, we huddle around and talk to each other about what are you hearing from Hartford? What are your peers saying in other towns? What's new? What's going on? And there are conference calls constantly with Hartford on all of these matters. Either Steve Dunn, myself, Fran Lally, or Dr. Sullivan are constantly on Zoom meetings and webinars to get updates on the COVID situation. Next couple highlights have to do with zoning commission. If any of you went to the last zoning commission meeting last Thursday, I did not, but I do know that there is a new development team or a new development team looking at the Enclave project. This is north of Four Corners. It's a big apartment development. They want to have fewer buildings, but taller buildings to have a less of a footprint on the property. And that's going to take some zoning regulation changes. So they started an informal discussion with the zoning commission last Thursday. This is the one that was headed up by Tony Lucera. And it looks like the bankers are taking a different direction on that project.
Excuse me, Greg, is Lucera still
what I'm
on?
doing is that it's got to do with Streetscape Phase 4, about 800 foot of frontage on Federal Road. So we've got to stay very close to that project, and we are.
Excuse me, Greg, is Lucera still involved?
He was not disinvited to be part of that project, but my understanding is that he's got other priorities, and I don't know what all of them are. I do know what a couple of them are, and that the bankers and financiers would love to keep Tony, but they may have to take another route because of Tony's priorities.
Okay, thank you.
So
Gents, pardon me, but where exactly is that?
Right across
it's
from
nor-
Riverview.
I'm sorry?
Right across from Riverview and Newberry.
What are your thoughts, Mel?
I refuse to make comment because of my feelings towards Lucera. I'm not happy, okay? I'm not happy with it. It's going to change the characteristic of the town, especially the area where I am. So my opinion is I am not happy with that. I'm not happy with Happy Landings, but that's the way I feel. It's too much development in a small area.
Other comments, other thoughts?
How high is the building they're proposed talking about now? How many stories?
I don't, again, I wasn't at the meeting, but from what I heard, they don't want to go higher than the 30-foot maximum, but I think they want to create a loft situation in the roof area. So it would in effect be 4 stories, but not higher than the 30 feet maximum.
Well,
But
isn't that
again,
the
I
same?
think this discussion and this whole idea is just starting with this new team. And I encourage anybody who has an opinion to go to the zoning commission meetings when it's on the agenda and speak up. But if you're going to be a commissioner, I would just advise, make sure you make it clear if you're speaking as an individual or if you're speaking as a commissioner. I think you should, talk to the commission first. So, if there's a consensus on whatever you're saying, just kind of that's my opinion on that. I know Jim's done that kind of thing before.
I think this is something we should really do a little more research in, and if we want to make a statement in favor or against it, I think we should all go back and look at the zoning meeting of last week, maybe even the last couple of weeks, and see what's in the minutes, and watch it and see what they're actually proposing. And maybe we could have that done before our next meeting in October. So we could have make a statement one way or the other, or even just informational questions, what are you actually proposing?
Yeah.
And to Greg's advice, I will speak as an individual, not as a planning commission member or even an EDC member.
Yeah.
4 stories seems relatively high. It seemed like that's what we tried to avoid before with the other apartment buildings in the town. I agree with Mel.
We had the zoning commissioner at our meeting probably 6 or 8 months ago, and there are a lot of issues. There are a lot of projects that are in these kind of discussions in front of the zoning commission. And, it might not be a bad idea to have Eric come in again, or as commissioners, any one of you can speak to a commissioner in the zoning commission and have that discussion one-on-one. Now, you can't be sitting as a majority because that will be considered a meeting, but there's different ways to tackle this. One, of course, would be to read the minutes, but that doesn't tell the whole story all the time. And this project is only one of several that is a Four Corners development kind of activity that's in some early stages. The next bullet is another one. And this is a revised plan for the Brookfield Village project on Station Road. And that thing is progressing. This one's been talked about as long as the Brookfield Village project was on the books 6 years ago. And that is for the market rate townhomes. I think they're townhomes on that wetland area just behind buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for about the 5th or 6th time, they've revised their plans, and it looks like this one's going through. The issue at hand here is commercial on the first floor. The developers are pushing back on saying that, why are you making me do that when you got so many vacancies in downtown, much less on Station Road? Who's gonna rent commercial space for me across the street from what you look at? So that's another one that's been going back and forth now for a long, long time.
This must be on their 10th, 12th, 15th revision. I mean, by my estimates,
Yeah, but it appears now, I think all parties, with these developments, many stars have to line up. It's not just the money to submit an application, but it's got to be within the zoning regulations. Then his backers have to be there. And then there's got to be a market or a demand for what he's putting in. And sometimes these things cycle through years before it all comes together. So on some better news, we got a phone call. This is my next bullet. 40,000 square foot grocery store at 14 Candlewood Lake Road. This is the Raymore and Flanagan Plaza. And they are serious about this. You could just tell by the question, the level of questions they're asking. And we're getting a call from a national chain. They will not disclose the name of the store. They're being very discreet, but they're calling for information, and they want 40,000 square foot for a grocery store. This one cropped up about 2 weeks ago and is, we're now dealing with it.
Is that,
Does anybody know, pardon me, but it is, in ShopRite, what is the relative number of, the square footage there? Just so that we have 40,000, what does that really mean? So we could have it like in perspective.
Yeah. I don't know the square footage of ShopRite, but Alan, I can look that up and just send you all a quick message, tomorrow if that's something you'd like to know.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because
What's going on with this project is he wants that 40,000 square foot is in continuous space in that existing building. So people that are in there now have to move around to give this guy 40,000 square foot all in one continuous piece. So this one's got a little bit of a puzzle to it. And that's some of the nuance on this project.
Is there
but
enough parking?
the other grocery store is still coming in, right?
Yes. That's one of Tony Lucera's higher priority projects. And
Right.
that one got through the WPCA, the applications in front of wetlands, and that's going to tie into Streetscape Phase 5 that I'll talk about here in a few minutes.
I would just think that if they're talking about existing store footage, no problem. I mean, that would be up to them to think whether there's an economic imperative, whether it's going to make sense for them. But it's not exactly like they're going to have wetlands or any kind of development, issues. They're just taking on existing, square footage. So that's not just on the first glance, it doesn't look like there's an issue. Anybody else have any comments?
I'm just
Number one,
surprised by that. I mean, there used to be a second grocery store in town, and that was Waldbaum's, right? Over there.
correct.
And it kind of was proven. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened with Waldbaum's. Maybe some of you can educate me on that, but it kind of seemed that this was a one grocery store town. Obviously this, the side of town with town center, it's a little bit more developed and it's separated. So to have one on that side of town makes sense, but to have two over there where there's ShopRite, I'm kind of surprised by that. But if they did their research and, they're comfortable with the traffic, then that's on them, I'm okay with it. It's also surprising. The second point is they just shuffled around those tenants in there with Michael's and CVS. And so to shuffle them around again is got to be a challenge. But again, that's for the landlord and the
It's their issue to resolve.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Yep. Okay, can I move on?
Please.
Please do.
Okay, so within the next 2 weeks, I really expect for Steve Dunn to receive a letter from the Department of Economic and Community Development saying that our STEEP grant's been approved. And this is for the start of the renovation of Town Hall. I talked to you about this, or I said in my last month's report to you, I talked about that grant, how it was approved by the Board of Finance. This is phase 1 of a 3-phase renovation of Town Hall. So we'll know within a couple of weeks, and then we'll be off to the races on starting the renovation of the first floor. And then lastly, on Streetscape Phase 3, as we were standing in front of Angelo's place about 3 months ago, we had a utility coordination meeting with Eversource, Frontier, and Charter. And we were talking about utility needs and moving the poles and the 5 phases of Streetscape. And the managers were all at that meeting talking about how shocked they were on how much quote unquote development is happening in Brookfield. And they said, boy, you guys are really an anomaly here. You're very lucky. I mean, things are going great for you. How can you afford all this? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, these developments are private industry. It's not the town putting all this in. But they said, you know, you've got so much going on here. We would really like to get a bigger picture of what's going on in Brookfield so we can plan our infrastructure. And more important than the infrastructure, they want to plan for staffing. So he asked if we could put together a list of the planned larger commercial developments in town so they can go back to their bosses and say, hey, listen, you know, we need to support Brookfield. I got to tell you, when we call the utility companies for help on these projects, it sometimes takes weeks to get somebody on the project's design side to help me, or they promise to show up and they don't show up for 3 weeks. And I've had to have Steve Dunn call the utility companies up at his level, telling them to help us out because they're holding up our projects. So they wanted to document something like this to help them convince their management that they need to provide resources to towns like Brookfield to be more responsive. And for that reason, we put together a draft or a first pass or a work in progress of the larger commercial projects that are planned. And we'll get to that on the next page of your package. But that's the backstory on that list.
Greg, just a quick question, not to belabor it, but do they consider like assigning a point person? Town of Brookfield as an example?
Yeah.
They have fly and call around. It's one person you call and they at least got their fingers in most of these projects to some extent.
Yeah, so Rich, what they do is they have a point person but that point person is spread so thin.
Okay.
Like they'll cover like 6 or 8 or 10 towns and you can't get them to Brookfield. Sometimes they're too busy.
Okay. All right. I just didn't know their structure and how they were trying to handle it. So they're attempting to handle it that way, but they're too thin.
Yeah.
And this is a electric company, right? Like Eversource? Like
It's all 3 companies. It's cable, phone, and electric.
playing their way out of a wet paper bag.
So, you know, and this is not the people that you would call as a resident because you were not a service. This is their engineering design staff. It's a whole different part of their organization, you know?
Sure.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So that's all I have on economic development. A couple of new things have come up. Let me just, since I wrote this yesterday, let me give you the most pressing right now is I was assigned to be the representative for the town for battery powered charging stations. And there is a 12-part course that I need to go to. The first training session is Thursday, and it's to learn about EVs, electric vehicles, and what monies are available from the state and how you go about putting a charging station in. So my first step into that's going to be Thursday afternoon, and it's going to take me a couple months to get through the programs and meet all these people. But the thought is, you know, do we want to have a charging station in Brookfield? And where do you put it? What does it cost? What are the subsidies? You know, how is it used? And those kind of things. It's not just for public automobiles, but it could be for the town's fleet, or it could be for the town's school buses. So this thing has a long way to go. There are many ways to tackle this, and I'm just getting my feet wet on it starting Thursday.
Greg, it wouldn't be commercial, or it wouldn't be commercial. It would be for town vehicles, et cetera. You know, right? Is that correct? Or
it could be a charging station for the public. There are grants available for public charging stations. Now, I don't know yet because I haven't been to one meeting, one webinar on which of these avenues this program is going to take me. My Thursday meeting is all about introduction and getting the basics down. I don't even have that yet, so I really can't say much more other than I start on it on Thursday.
I would assume that some of the dealers, the car manufacturers will give us some help with that.
I don't know. I don't know if
Be
this is a
interesting.
I don't know if it's a federal program, a state program. Is it I know nothing about it other than I'm getting started, just getting started.
With all that free time you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's great that you're
Thanks.
looking into it now. I mean, from an article I read, it coincidentally, like about a week or so ago, something about the Earth's oil will run out in about 50, 60 years or something off the top of my head. So to get ahead of that now as a town, it's important. Don't get me wrong, I love my truck, but this is the way we're moving. So that's
Yeah.
pretty progressive. Thank you.
So that's all I have on economic development. Can I move on?
Please?
Okay, we have 3 ribbon cuttings, at least that I know of, not including Pete's very successful one this afternoon. But we have Frankie's on Saturday, the 26th. Susan Murphy's kind of organizing and coordinating this, so I don't think we're going to be front and center, but it'd be good to be there to help cut the ribbon, I guess. Sue Slater can't make it. I think Steve Dunn is now going. But if you guys can make it, you're welcome to attend. The second I talked about in my last month's report, and that is Global Greenfield. This is going to be the first time that we'll be cutting a ribbon for a water main. And the interesting thing about this project, and I knew this was going to happen, now that the main is running on Vale Road, guess what? Aquarian Water called last week and said, you know what? We're now going to run that main even further. And we're now going to tie into the Rolling Wood condos and Federal Road so they can loop the main so they have redundant supply. So here we go with one little project that Jim Fisher and I were at a meeting on over 2 years ago at Global Greenfield. It ended up 2 years later where that business is paying for that main. And now Aquarian sees the value to extend it even longer on their own. So Aquarian called me and said, you know what? We're going to take that main further. But if you know of any other development going on Gray's Bridge or Sandy Lane, have them call us because we're going to extend that main further. So it just goes to show you when you start with one little idea a couple of years ago, here these things just take time, but they tend to move in a very good direction in a town like Brookfield.
That's fantastic news. It really is.
And the last is the Branson Ultrasonics that I talked about sometime in the fall.
The only other 2 ribbon cuttings that come to mind that we should try to look into are the JJ Stacks and the Pyology have both opened up. You know, I don't know if they have any plans or, you know, what we want to do about that, but they're both opened up and I don't think they've had a ribbon cutting per se, or, you know, it doesn't take us but 5 minutes to at least hold one and put it on our website.
Yeah, I've not been able to get to it, Jim. I've just been swamped. If somebody else wants to go in there and make a phone call or talk to the tenant or whatever, I'd be happy to pull it together. I just haven't gotten to it.
If you can get me the owners' names or the owners or managers' names, I'll give them a call or I'll stop
Okay.
it.
And hey, Jim, just so you know, I know I sent that email around, but JJ Stacks is on the Chamber of Commerce list.
Okay.
So I think Susan Murphy, and there may be somebody else, I can't remember who, is supposed to be contacting all of those owners that are on that list that I sent out a little bit ago. So just, you know, do you know Susan Murphy?
Yes.
Okay, you may want to just touch base with her before you call JJ Stacks. That's all I would say.
Okay.
So you're not duplicating efforts or,
Yep.
you know, or confusing them for that matter, you know?
Can we just talk about ribbon cuttings in general for a moment? Are we in any way stepping on the chamber's toes by initiating ribbon cuttings? Is that generally been the chamber's role, or, you know, is it kind of a joint responsibility? I'm just trying to understand to make sure we're not, you know, crossing boundaries, you know? Any feelings on any of that?
So Pete, I'll make one comment, Pete. I know Rich wants to say something too. I was invited by Susan Murphy, actually copied me on the email.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't see it as stepping on their toes. I kind of see it as working together with the chamber. You know, we all know Susan Murphy pretty well.
Yep.
And, you know, it doesn't matter to me as much if they hold the scissors or we hold the scissors. I think if we're both there, I think we kind of support each other. That's just kind of my take.
I just mean, I guess, in way of, initiating contact, I guess if we do and then we collaborate with them and inform them that this is happening, then that's one thing. But from a business owner's perspective, if they're getting a call simultaneously from the EDC and then from the chamber about a ribbon cutting, and they're kind of saying, well, who do I go with? How does this work? It gets kind of confusing. Perhaps this is a conversation that we have with the chamber. And Rich, we can talk offline about that.
Sure.
Just to kind of streamline this a little more, because I love the fact that the EDC is involved in the ribbon cuttings, and I think the town should be just to support business. But I feel like there should be a little bit of cleaner process. Does that make sense to everybody?
I agree with you, but I think we should definitely be coordinated with them. So we both have the same goals. We want to promote businesses opening in Brookfield, and that, and the chamber does that and promotes the chamber members. So I think we both have the same goals. Frankly, I don't really care who cuts the ribbon. I
Right.
just would like to have the EDC present. I'd like to have the chamber present, and we put it on our website. The chamber puts it on their website, and we're getting positive news for Brookfield. I think that's the bottom line. That's what we want at the end of the day. That's what we all want.
I agree. I'll work with Rich on this and figure out a way to kind of streamline it so we're not duplicating efforts and that we're all collaborating.
Yeah, I guess just the one thing I would say is that, with the Economic Development Commission is, we don't have even a part-time staff member. I mean, I know Greg is doing everything he can, but obviously he's just getting layered with more and more and more stuff. So it makes it difficult for him to, be able to go do those kind of things and coordinate those, or even collaborate and coordinate with the chamber. So if we do, we got to kind of figure out, how does the EDC, who at the EDC would be the point person to work with the chamber, to smooth it out, to your point, Peter. I don't think we've had any conflicts yet, but they're coming.
And I'd rather not
Yeah, exactly.
with the conflict. Now that we're identifying this, that we're trying to,
Right.
be part of ribbon cuttings, it just makes sense to have a process in place.
All
I
right.
don't want to take any more time on it, but Rich and I will collaborate together.
Yeah, Pete, I think your thought is spot on. For me, the bigger picture would be that, we are a town body and they're a commercial body. All right. So we just have to be very, whatever we agree to do, I think we need to understand, that, we don't have the resources to do all this, but if they're going to be doing something that we're lending our name to, then I think we just need to, be, very wary, be careful and to agree with them exactly under what circumstances we are working together. I think that they would be, very, very happy for us to lend our name to whatever they're doing. That to me, I think we're, that's a real, positive for anything that they're doing. They're a commercial body. We're a town.
That's a-
So, just to be thinking of that.
Yep. Sounds good.
The other thing I would remind you all of is you all have EDC name tags. And I mean, to Alan's point, we're representing the town here and we're welcoming them to the town. So putting on our EDC name tags and showing who we represent, I think is a good thing.
Agreed.
Okay, you ready for a little streetscape?
Please.
Okay, phase 3 is the big thing because we're now very close to construction. And the biggest development on phase 3 is a presentation that the Arts Commission made to the Board of Selectmen 2 weeks ago, and that is the pocket park design. What's unique about phase 3, if you guys remember, is there's going to be a pocket park in front of the Old Hearth Restaurant. And it's going to be a rather significant investment for the town because we haven't built a park from scratch before. And this one's going to be really a showcase as best we can make that small area. So we've been working with the Arts Commission for over a year on their desire to have an art piece be the center point of the Pocket Park. And they've been working on this. We've been working on this for a long time with them. They finally came up with a recommendation. They sent their design standards to me about 2 months ago. And I asked our engineers to put in the foundation and the lighting that they desired for this art piece. And it's expensive. And they're going to try to do some fundraising, but the project can't wait. So the Board of Selectmen asked for an update from me on the project to see if the project can hold up and pay for the infrastructure needed for their art piece. And that's why I sent to them a presentation that's in your package. Just to give you a sense what we're talking about, the Pocket Park is about $100,000 investment. And the concrete and lighting is just $38,000 alone. And the art piece is still under, it's not been approved by the Board of Selectmen, but there's a plan to get community input before the final decision's been made. So all this is now like in the important planning phases of our final design package. So in this package, you'll see a presentation on the updated Streetscape Phase 3, and you'll see that I'm estimating that the project can absorb that $38,000 to support an art piece. So that's in your package, and we can go through it if you like, but the next page in your package is that planned development document I was talking about. And I'm not going to go through every line. Looks like Allison's trying to flip it maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the way to flip it here.
Yeah. Since it's in a PDF, it might be kind of tough. I don't know.
Well, I think if you just give us the basics, I mean, I think a lot of us have looked at it.
Yeah.
And read through it.
So this is a listing of what so far we consider to be large commercial developments. It's listed alphabetically by town, by road, and then by street address. Oh, good job, Allison. And I've tried to catch some of the more critical information as far as infrastructure, utilities are concerned, like square footage, retail versus residential and such. So again, a work in progress. There's a lot of missing information, but this is something I plan on keeping current. And you could see some of the projects I talked about tonight and some that we haven't gotten to. But there it is for your, for your review and perusal.
Greg, whatever happened to the Dunkin' Donuts that was going to go in behind that? Is that still going to go in there?
It's on the page. So look at Dunkin' Donuts, Federal Road, ECB Realty, Dunkin' Donuts. The address is 756.
Right. Yep.
And is Portobello still going in?
Well, see where it says 2 units? The speculation is the second unit's going to be Portobello.
Mhm.
But if you think about the purpose of this sheet, it's not really retrofitting buildings, it's new infrastructure from a utility perspective. So this sheet isn't going to be everything to everybody. It's really meant to be what's new infrastructure demand in the town. There are hundreds of renovation projects going on. You guys just mentioned 2, Portobello's and Dunkin' Donuts. This list is not meant to really cover every renovation project, just new infrastructure. Okay? If you want a list of every retrofit going on, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
There are a lot of units there.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just going to say,
Yeah.
the thing that caught my eye was over half is residential square footage.
Exactly.
So that leads to another subject I haven't talked about, the moratorium and the housing inventory that's due on October 16th. So right now, Alice Dew is leading the effort to update our housing inventory. And it's a pretty big chunk of work, and she's working on that now, and I'll give her a little help to do that. So that's a whole nother subject we haven't even gotten into tonight. So the rest of this is the Streetscape Phase 3 update. And I don't know that I have to go through this with you guys, but I'm happy to. This is just the history and the timeline to get everybody grounded. Project started 2 years ago. You can read through all that. It's
Yep.
all just background information. And here we are in September 2020. We're within a week of submitting our final design, which locks us in with the DOT. And then all the funding flows start, then our bidding process starts, that whole thing. We cannot send a final design into the right-of-way acquisitions closed. And we're almost done with that with Angelo here. There's a lot of sign-offs that have to happen at many levels before the DOT accepts the final design. And I've been working on this for 2 months and we're getting close. And that's how it's going to be funded. You can keep going. So unique features are on the bottom, and I just talked about, if we can, Allison can scroll down a little bit. There it is. So I talked about the pocket park. We have $30,000 of sitting wall, $38,000 of art sculpture, lighting, and concrete foundation work. And the Arts Commission is going to find a way to either fundraise, or the town's going to have to come up with the cost of the art piece, which is estimated to be $16,000, the one they've picked but has not been finalized. There's going to be 120 trees and shrubs. It's going to be, we're really going to green the area up. Sidewalks on both sides of Old Route 7 and a crosswalk to the Still River Greenway. So that's the highlights.
I watched the,
Who did the selection of the artwork?
Pardon me?
How did they come up with the design of the artwork?
The Art Commission thought about and brainstormed and looked at many different designs and realized that many of the ones they liked or were considering were very expensive. Very expensive. In some cases, 6 figures. And somehow they found a local artist from New Fairfield that had a piece that they really liked, and it really met with the theme they were trying to meet. And that's what they recommended to the Board of Selectmen a couple of weeks ago.
if you watch that meeting, I watched it, and they put a ton of thought, ton of consideration into selecting this piece. I struggle with understanding art. That's my wife's side of things, but you know, I was impressed with the amount of thought and you know, intent behind selecting the piece. I took this is crude, but you know, the piece that they were looking at was something like this. I know it's not finalized yet, but there's a whole meaning behind it. And you know, if you actually watch the Board of Selectmen meeting, they articulate it, you know, really well. But there's a meaning behind the art. It's interesting.
Pete, I guess the reason for my question is that art is so subjective, and that I'm just thinking about the potential blowback by the wider community. So, I love art, and whatever it is, I'm sure they did.
Again, Alan, if you watch the Board of Selectmen meeting, they discussed that exact topic.
Yeah.
I think they had a really great conversation, and they considered all of it. I support it, but as personally, but watch the Selectmen meeting. It's almost like it's almost an hour that they're discussing.
I don't doubt it.
Okay.
So the next pages are just, you all have seen this map before. That just meant to ground everybody on where everything's located in the 4 phases. So there's phase 3, and I see Angelo's Cleaners at the bottom there. And if you scroll up a little more, Allison, please. So phase 5 is connecting to the grocery store. I'm trying to get that one in next summer, but it's going to be really tough. Things are really tough to get through the DOT now, not just with COVID, but they've had a lot of organizational changes, and things are just really slow at the DOT. It's hard to get things moving quickly in the DOT at this time. So I'm having a hard time convincing myself we can get phase 5 in next summer, but we're trying. And then the last few pages are just to those people who really like numbers. This is the design cost for every line item. And I won't go through every one of these lines, but this is our using the state's estimating guidelines, which we have to do for a state project. These are the linear, we put it, the quantities, the price per linear foot installed for all of these item numbers. And you can it goes on and on.
Thank you for the level of detail, Greg.
That's the world I live in, Alan.
Hmm.
It
I
is
don't
really-
know what a dethroned steel bar is. What is that?
Which item number?
It's 602-001.
6. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. I just,
Right under footing concrete.
I
yeah.
just-
So there's going to be some little bit of rebar or steel to hold up the structure, the art piece. So that's a little bit of steel in the concrete.
is dethroned? Is that an actual word?
I don't know. I just know they're going to have some steel in the structure, in
Okay.
the concrete.
All right. Sorry. It was my personal giggle. Mm-mm.
Well, Greg, I want to thank you. I mean, the amount of effort that you put in for the town is unbelievable. I mean, when we see these
Seriously.
things, it boggles my mind sometimes. I'm surprised you have any hair left with dealing with the state and the feds.
Yeah, it's well, the good thing is we make progress and we see results, and that's kind of what drives me. But some days get a little frustrating, I'll tell you.
I can imagine.
So that's
Is
the end
that-
of it for me. That's the end of it for me, guys.
Any other business, any old business or new business that we'd like to address? Pete's CFO did invite us to a party at Newtown Savings Bank when COVID is over. So in a year, 2 years, 15 years, who knows when this is going to be over, but there's going to be a big party at the bank. So
He says that any chance he can anywhere, so don't hold too much stock in that.
okay. Well, his kids will be out of college by then, so maybe, he'll loosen up a little.
Pete, thank him on our.
Maybe you'll have some, maybe you'll have some funds then.
All right, any other business for this evening? Greg and Allison, I want to thank you always, Greg, for everything for you're doing, and Allison for putting up with us.
All right, guys, good night.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okey-doke.
Well done.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.